Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some late night massive news for the Washington Husky fans as former Mississippi State quarterback Will Rogers commits to the Washington Huskies out of the transfer portal. And you take a look at this. I think I certainly think this. I think a lot of college football fans think this. What a perfect fit. Will Rogers heading to Washington. We're talking about a quarterback that has thrown for over 12,000 yards and 94 touchdowns in the SEC. That is second most all time in the SEC conference's history. And you're going to get people saying Will Rogers, all the production is a product of the Mike Leach scheme. You don't throw for 12,000 yards in that conference against those defenses without having some talent. And you look at the skill set that Will Rogers has, you got to be thinking it is an amazing fit for what they're doing out there with this Washington Huskies defense. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. A shout out to the Washington fans. This has been a program that we've talked about all year. The amount of support you guys have shown the boys was absolutely amazing. It's been a blast covering this team as they go into the college football playoffs. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to talk a little Will Rogers, then just a quick update on some other prospects that Washington is kicking tires around, I should say, in the transfer portal. But I want to start with Will Rogers and talk about what you see from Will Rogers and where this is going to fit in this Washington offense. And the first thing I want to talk about is Will Rogers. His ability to diagnose and get the football out quickly reminds me a lot of what Michael Penix did. I mean, Michael Penix was a master in terms of getting the football out quickly and on time. And that is exactly where Will Rogers found a lot of success too. Now, does Will Rogers have the arm talent that Michael Penix does? Not sure if he does. Again, he's thrown for 12,000 yards in the SEC. His arm talent is not bad, but Michael Penix was special. But I think what I love the most is, Michael Penix and what made him special in that Washington offense. I believe he was like bottom 5 or top 5, I guess you would say, in terms of release time as a quarterback, just getting the ball out extremely quick, never taking sacks. That is where Will Rogers had a ton of success at Mississippi State as well. You're talking about a quarterback that has 4 years of starting experience in the SEC, has thrown for over 12,000 yards with a 69% completion percentage, 94 touchdowns to only 28 interceptions, a guy that has played at an extremely high level in the SEC, going into an offense that is going to run through the quarterback. This looks to be a really good fit, and I would caution Washington fans to don't look at that 2023 year and think Will Rogers ain't that guy. And Will Rogers, what happened with Mississippi State, I'm not sure if many Washington fans are familiar. Obviously, the passing of Mike Leach, it completely changed the offensive scheme and philosophy for Will Rogers last year at Mississippi State. And the offense just had no structure. It had no identity. So you see the dip in Will Rogers' numbers in 2023. He was also playing extremely banged up. Will Rogers has been one of the more consistent and prolific quarterbacks in the SEC. And now he's going to a very quarterback-friendly system with two of the brightest offensive minds across the whole country in Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. I think this is going to be a great fit. And furthermore, you have Austin Mack there. And I know a lot of Washington fans are really excited about Austin Mack. And quite frankly, I'm excited too. And I expect that to be a quarterback competition in the spring. But I also know Washington fans probably know this too. He was a reclassified guy. So he's a younger quarterback that I believe enrolled at Washington August 1st of 2023. So he hasn't spent a ton of time in that system. And so what you're doing is you have a really young and talented quarterback who's the future of this program in Austin Mack. And then you're bringing in a quarterback that is experienced and seen a lot of different defenses and seen a lot of good defenses in the SEC. So if Austin Mack, he doesn't need to be ready to go going into that first year of the Big Ten. You can lean on Will Rogers, get Austin Mack some work and mop-up duty, and then Austin Mack's going to be the guy in 2025. The quarterback runway, a conversation I don't think happens enough, really, really good for the Washington Huskies. Fires me up. Obviously, Washington's had a ton of success with transfer quarterbacks, Michael Penix being one of those examples. Want to talk about a few other names to keep an eye on for Washington fans in the transfer portal. And what's most exciting is you're suddenly seeing the Washington Huskies kind of be a destination spot for offensive weapons. Like, you take a look back at what you just saw in 2023 and what you saw in 2022 and that prolific offense that we saw. If you're a transfer quarterback, if you're a transfer wide receiver, and you're looking to find an offense where you can fit in and put up numbers, the Washington offense is the place to be. So another guy I'm taking a look at, he's from Washington, spent 2 years at Notre Dame. Washington fans who follow the recruiting trail no doubt know this name, Tobias Merryweather. Played in a Notre Dame offense that, quite frankly, just lacked any explosiveness. And when they did have some explosiveness, it was going to Tobias Merryweather, a guy that we were really excited about heading into year 2 for Notre Dame, never really reached that potential. Again, couldn't think of a better offense for him to reach that potential than in the Washington Huskies offense. This is a guy that's 6'4", 205 pounds. You take a look at the track times back from the high school ranks, a 10.95 100-meter dash time. This is a big body that can work vertically down the field. You take a look at the numbers, 2023 stats, 14 catches for 285 yards. For those who don't want to do the math at home, that is 20.3 yards per catch. This Washington offense thrived in pushing the ball downfield, hitting those explosive plays. You could potentially be getting a wide receiver in Tobias Merryweather, who is a guy that's going to help hit those big plays. Next guy I want to talk about, another Mississippi State running back, Jaquavius Marks. Obviously, a ton of success going to the transfer portal last year for running back in Dylan Johnson. Jaquavius Marks, another guy from Mississippi State who might want to follow in Dylan Johnson's footsteps. And again, that same narrative. If you are an offensive weapon that's trying to find a spot to be successful, put up numbers, improve your NFL draft stock, and play in an offense that's going to use you, then this is the Washington. It's the place to be, is at this Washington program. A guy like Jaquavius Marks, very, very good running back in the SEC, 410 career carries for over 1,800 yards, 22 touchdowns. Here's the kicker here. 214 catches for 1,200 yards. This is a guy that has put up wider receiver numbers as a running back. He's extremely comfortable catching the ball out of the backfield. He forced, 25 missed tackles in 2023. Very good after contact. Had 373 yards after contact last year, and that was only on 500 rushing yards. This is a guy that it can absorb contact, has a thick lower half, and quite frankly, runs the ball hard like Dylan Johnson does. So Jaquavius Marks, Will Rogers, potentially a package deal going on there. That would be a really nice addition. Last name I want to mention, and again, when you have success in the transfer portal like Washington had with Michael Penix, Dylan Johnson, and a guy like Jabbar Muhammad, like other guys in defensive back room want to come play. Kamari Ramsey, a young defensive back from UCLA, going to be taking a visit to Washington this weekend. In his second year of college football, 4 passes defended, 1 interception on 23 targets, only allowed 11 catches. This is a very, very good coverage safety who is still young, has a lot of meat left on the bone. And what excites me the most is I don't think this is all that Washington's going to be going after. And for Washington fans, you're probably not paying that much attention to the transfer portal because you got a game coming up in a month that is a lot more important. That being said, going into the Big Ten, this is going to be a team that's going to be one of the top teams in the Big Ten immediately in 2024. You want to make sure you're getting that roster right to head into the Big Ten and be extremely competitive. Kalen DeBoer and this coaching staff certainly doing that. Will Rogers, massive addition for the Washington Huskies. We'll keep our eyes out for a few of these other commitments as well. Appreciate the Washington fans late night rocking with the fellas. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.